Hello everybody, welcome back to the video, and today I am reviewing Fast X, the technically 11th Fast and Furious movie. It's the 10th one in the main Fast saga, but there was a spinoff in the form of Hobbs and Shaw. Overall, this movie, while being said to be, bottom to middle of the road by critics and other reviewers on the internet, I think this is actually one of the best. This is one of the ones, along with 5, 6, and 7, that I think has the perfect mix of the more outlandish along with the more realistic. Um, so, I'm going to go ahead and knock out the only part of this movie I didn't like. Brie Larson. I don't like Brie Larson as an actress. She is very dull, in my opinion, and kind of emotionless. I don't really care for her as an actress. I've seen her in a few things. She's not great in any of them. This is probably the best thing she's done in terms of her character in a said movie. Seen her in Kong Skull Island. Don't remember what she did there. Saw her in Captain Marvel. Did not like her in there. Best part of that movie was Samuel L. Jackson. She was in Endgame, essentially a cameo. But she is the only sort of low point here. Roman gets a lot of character work in this movie. He's trying to gain the respect of his fellow members of the family. So ultimately, one thing that I liked about this movie is that there were parallels to Fast Five. The bridge scene feels like an homage to the movie, and in more than one way. I mean, it's the same bridge from Fast Five that the climax takes place on, but also, right, the head of the agency, Ames, is it feels like he's supposed to be this stand-in for Hobbs, when ultimately they're like, oh no, when you find out he's actually working with Dante, and actually leads to part of the cliffhanger. Speaking of Dante, the internet loves Momoa's new villain. And honestly, I think that it's right to think so. Maybe not, he's not the best villain. I think that title still goes to Deckard Shaw, who was in this movie in essentially a cameo role. Shaw is more of a, not really a good guy. He's sort of in that same category as Venom from the Venom movies. So, so for outright villains, Dante is the best one. For ones that have no chance of getting any kind of redemption whatsoever. And he is, part of the reason why he is so interesting to watch is because of how unpredictable he is. There's been this straight trend of, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna knock it out as quickly as possible. Or bad guys just going around doing their thing, and then the family shows up in the case of Reyes, Dante's father. Dante is like, nope, I'm getting involved here, and I'm gonna enjoy this. This dude hacks into the bank accounts of the main characters, steals their money to hire mercenaries to go after them and all of their allies, while having two corpses in chairs while he's painting their nails. This dude is crazy. And sometimes you just want to see a crazy villain on screen. Yeah. And then let's get to the death count. So for the franchise, it actually gets taken back by one because Giselle is revealed to be alive. Honestly, I mean, I'm glad that she's back because hopefully, well, probably not, depending on how they're going to handle something else involving Han, but Okay, so Han is actually part of the cliffhanger, so I'll get to him in a minute. Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do with Giselle in the next one. I feel like it's just there to appease the fans. It's the one piece of fan service I didn't really like. There are a few references to the past ones. Dante himself calls the wrecking ball, I think it is, um, statue, not wrecking ball. Oh, I'm getting my words confused. The bomb. He calls the bomb an homage to the bank vault, and also the pose that he does when he detonates the bomb is the same one as the Christ the Redeemer statue in Rio de Janeiro. Um, so apart from that, um, there's a few other references. Obviously, Fast Five's the one that gets referenced the most because this is out of the most direct sequel to Fast Five, apart from Fast and Furious 6, because this has to do with the aftermath of that. Okay, so I thought Letty was going to be the one that dies. The initial teaser poster was Dominic Toretto holding the crucifix, which was a symbolic wedding ring to mark the wedding of him and Letty. I thought that was a pretty good prediction. I was wrong. Letty is actually the only one that's definitely alive, because out of the main characters, everyone is either already dead or in a state of could be dead. So, let's talk about the fates, potentially, of Roman, Ramsey, Han, and Tej. Who came up with the idea to pair these four? I don't know, but it's an interesting pairing that I don't think would have been seen anywhere else. They're ultimately kept in a plane for the end of the movie to be shot down by Ames. And they potentially die. Speaking of weird pairings, before I get back to the death thing, Letty and Cypher are actually a pretty fun comedic duo. I didn't think that would be something I would ever say, but I mean, honestly, if the series ends and these two are still alive, I wouldn't honestly mind seeing them get their own spinoff, because that could be something very fun to see. It could be a full-on comedy. Because I actually found myself getting close to laughing at these two on screen. Maybe it's just that I laugh easily at stuff, but this was actually a really fun comedic pairing. Alright, unfortunately, we gotta get back to the sad stuff. So, the only one that definitely dies is Jacob Toretto, played by John Cena. Yeah, they kill John Cena in this movie. Did not think that was going to happen. I thought that they were going to let him live at least until the next one. That way you would have a few movies with the guy before either his tragic killing or heroic sacrifice. They go with the heroic sacrifice here, and I actually think it works because you get a lot of the movie spent up, building up to him getting that redemption, for him being the bad guy of F9. This movie's about redeeming him and getting him to that point where he will willingly make that sacrifice. And I actually thought that it was great. And Cena himself is much better in this movie than he is in F9. Speaking of better performances from other ones, I think this is Vin Diesel's best performance. He is really good in this movie. It's either this one or Furious 7. I think those are his two best. But such a great performance by Diesel. Now I think about it, he's actually the mirror opposite of Dante, the movie's villain. Dante does these big, wild, showcases of power and terror. He's making everyone go, oh shoot, we need to run away from him. He's making his presence known while also staying hidden. Diesel is just like, I'm going to go do this. And ultimately is the subject of the cliffhanger of the movie, which is Vin Diesel and his son, little Brian, are at the bottom of the dam after they drove down the side of it to evade two exploding semis. Dante ultimately reveals he kind of counted on it, which makes sense. He researched these people for 10 years before ultimately enacting his plan. Of course, he'd be able to think about what they would do to escape anything. And he just reveals, look, I've planted bombs everywhere. I'm going to go. Bye. And so he just leaves as the dam is about to blow up. And that's the cliffhanger. And I literally went, that's it? In the movie theater, I said that aloud. So that was really crazy. The most shocking thing was The Rock showing up in the mid-credit scene. Because he says, he's going in to this building with other agents. Don't think they're attached to the agency or anything. And he's, going through. He finds the phone. It's Dante. And he says, yeah, Toretto may have been behind the wheel, but you're the one that killed my father. And then, he says, the devil's coming after you. And then, The Rock takes the hood off and he says, I won't be that hard to find. Before crushing the phone with his bare hand. Why? Because The Rock is just one of the strongest people in these movies. I mean, good grief. F9 would have been over before it started if he was in that movie. Also, really bummed that he never got to interact with the other big wrestler of the series, John Cena. That could have been a fun interaction. But either way, it was fun having him in the credit scene. And this is also where I do want to share a little theory I have, which is at the end of Hobbs and Shaw, you get them talking to this AI voice. And I actually think that AI voice is Dante. He says that he knows Hobbs, The Rock's character. I really just think that that's Dante. This dude is talented, but he took over Cypher's organization at the start of this movie, so I don't know if he did that because Hobbs and Shaw took down his last one, or if he just needed one in general to do this. I don't know. Alright, something I think a lot of people are kind of ignoring is the fact he has the God's Eye, which is an extremely powerful thing. Meaning he's probably going to use that to hunt down Hobbs, Shaw, or hopefully not, Brian O'Connor. And while I would hate to see this happen, I think Fast and Furious 11 could focus on these other characters, sort of Hobbs and Shaw too. Still under the main title. It's about Hobbs and Shaw going after Dante's henchmen, trying to protect these people, these other people that have these hits out on them. And then either at the end of that one or the beginning of the last one, you're gonna find out what happened to Toretto. Maybe he and his son faked their deaths. Maybe they escaped, but don't want Dante to know they escaped. That's just an idea I have. Overall, I loved Fast X. It was a fun movie. And I think that's what you want from a movie. You want it to be fun. And you want to see the epic struggle of good versus evil. And unfortunately, like Infinity War, the bad guy wins. But when the bad guy wins, that means the good guys are going to come back, well, in this case, even faster and even more furious. Overall, is this the best one in the series? honestly, maybe it's really good. I loved this movie. Um, there's a lot of things I didn't talk about, which is the amount of great set pieces, the Rome set piece, the Toretto household set piece. You know, even the Letty Cypher fight is actually a really good fist fight. Um, that final scene at the dam, maybe one of the best ending sequences. Not the best. The best ending sequence is the ending of Furious 7. Which, quick thing, I noticed that a few notes did play of See You Again in this movie when Toretto is reminiscing about his time with O'Connor. It was very good. Um, so yeah, Furious 7 is the best one. And I watched them all actually within the span of the last year. So they're all really fresh in my mind. And I watched Fast 5 to give myself a refresher for this one. I mean, I think this one was better than Fast 5. So I'd say this is the second best. Furious 7 being the best, in my opinion. But this is a very close second. I mean, when I say that, Furious 7 is like a 9.5. Fast X is maybe a 9.2, 9.3. Only thing I don't like about it is Brie Larson. So yeah. Overall, it's a very fun movie. Would highly recommend it. Especially going to see it in a movie theater, because that's just an experience that's sort of unparalleled. Getting to see a movie on this big screen with the sounds going on in the background. Maybe that affected it because it was a cool experience. The first one of these that I got to see at the movies. But either way, this is my thoughts for now. Very good, very enjoyable. Would highly recommend it. Anyway, that's it for this video. Like and subscribe. Bye.